Welcome, low ego action heroes and phoenixes and everybody out there. I'm Debbie Levitt from Delta CX, and this is our usual Wednesday show for Ask Me Anything. Hello, Ana Lucia. If you have any questions at all that you think I would possibly know the answer to or be able to advise you on, ask them. It's free. Costs you nothing. You can put them in the chat and they'll pop up on the screen and I will grab them and put them on the screen again. Or you can send them in anonymously, especially if you have a longer question. That can go to dcx.to/Q for question, and that'll come into my email and I'll be able to catch your question there. Remember that all the links are on dcx.to. Just go there. Everything is there. Our free community, my books, our Patreon, which is mostly free, all kinds of stuff. And of course, I want to remind everybody that I'll be in Seattle for Convey UX later this month, because as I'm talking to you, it's February 5 of 2025. So if you're going to be at Convey UX, make sure you come up and say hi to me and get pictures and whatever you like to do, or at least whatever you like to do within appropriate reason. And I'm having a bookstore event on February 23rd, 2025, which you can join in person in Seattle or remotely online. It'll be about my Life After Tech book. So if you're curious about that, you can join that event. You can find it at dcx.to/Seattle 2025, with Seattle with a lowercase s, and you can find that there. And spread the word to people you know in Seattle. So last week we had lots of questions. Quick note, next week I am going to have to cancel. We have a guest coming to visit, and I don't want to pick her up from the airport and then be like, bye, gotta go stream. So we will not have a show next week. I better send a quick note to Dr. Nick and let him know. And then we're also going to miss the show the last Wednesday of the month, since I will be at Convey UX. So make sure you know. All right, so let's send a note to Dr. Nick and make sure he knows that there is no show next week. I don't want him to show up because he's good like that. So yeah, send your questions in. I'm happy to answer them. I usually stay here about an hour. This is your time to ask whatever you'd like. All right, let's see if while I was sending Dr. Nick, we had any questions. No. Well, that's fine. I'll at least stick around a few minutes to see if anybody has any questions. All questions are welcome. Hopefully I'll know the answers to at least some of them. And yeah, let me know what you're thinking. Oh, people are mentioning me on LinkedIn. I guess I'll respond to them while I see if anybody has questions. Again, we're not having this next week. If you have any questions, make sure you get them in our Discord community. I will be hanging around there if people need help. So you can always track me down there. How's everybody doing? Looks like we're live on LinkedIn. We're live in all the places, so at least the streaming is working. Oh, and today's co-working stream I'll try to do tomorrow, so sorry that everything's moving around. Okay, we have a few live viewers on YouTube. Hello, YouTubers. I didn't open up Twitch today. Well, while we wait to see if anybody has any questions today, which are certainly optional, I'll tell you about some of the shows that are coming up this month and into March, which you can find at dcx.to. I don't have any questions. I'm hanging around. Yeah, thanks. I'm always happy to see you. So questions are optional. Let's see. I'm going to try to do, not tomorrow. I'm going to try to do co-working on Friday. If people want to hang around and work together, there'll be live co-working on Twitch. Saturday night, karaoke stream, hopefully. Okay, yesterday in gaming has a question, and Tuesday I'll be talking about time management. And then Thursday the 13th, I'll also be doing an event with the UX Researchers Guild. So good stuff coming up. Okay, what day were you covering productivity tips and tools? Oh, I'm not sure if I have that. Were you thinking the time management show? The time management show is next Tuesday. I'll be talking about how I manage my time and how people say, oh, Debbie, you get so much done. How do you do it? Oh, there's an anonymous question coming in. I think it might be that one. I don't think I have a show specifically about productivity tips or tools. I've done shows before on monday.com, hashtag not sponsored. Should put that up on the screen. Where's my not sponsored message? Monday.com. Really, the center of my universe outside of my calendar is Monday.com. I manage a lot of stuff there. It is not inexpensive, so it's not going to be for everyone. And because I use some of their more advanced features, I'm in the pro plan, which means I'm paying for 3 seats for one person. So I'm probably overspending a little bit, but it saves so much time out of my life that if you do the math based on how much time it's saving, then it's worth it. So I would say that I have a lot of stuff in Monday.com, and I have a lot of stuff triggered by Zapier, which runs me $200-ish a year. And again, let's pretend I'm billing, let's pretend a low rate. Let's pretend I'm billing $60 an hour. If it saves me 3.5 hours in a year, it's worth it. And so that's the way I look at the cost of things. I look at, okay, Monday.com's a little more than I want to pay. It's like $600 or $700 for the year. But if I were to bill even $60 an hour, and in some cases I've been making a little more than that lately, but I've generally been billing 80 euros an hour lately. I'm just going to come out and say that. That is lower than I used to bill. Some things I'm able to bill more for. Some things I'm not billing that. So my billing's all over the place right now. But all it has to do is save me like 6 hours a year, 8 hours a year, 10 hours a year, and it's worth it. Should we send questions in the chat, says Cloudy? You can put them in the chat, though they will come up on the screen and it will say Cloudy. If you want them to be anonymous, you can go to dcx.to/q and you will get a little survey form and they will come to me. Ana Lucia says, I have to check European alternatives for productivity. Again, I'm not going to talk about what country any of my tools happen to be based in. Some may or may not be countries I feel great about. It's really all over the place right now. I'm even concerned about some things hosted in America because I'm not sure how safe that's going to be. But all that being said, I can't imagine replacing Monday.com. I love it too much, and I'm not paid to say that. Let's take a look at the anonymous question. Oh, it's a good one. I love when everybody asks good questions. That makes this more fun. And we'll also, okay, so Yesterday in Gaming has a follow-up question about this stuff, so I'm going to put that after the anonymous question, just so we can get the anonymous question in first. Yeah, there are definitely lots of solutions that aren't Monday.com, that aren't Zapier, that aren't some of the things I use, and you're welcome to try them out. But I'm definitely a researcher at heart, and I have picked these things fairly deliberately. So let's get our question up on the screen. The question was, if you were to start today, would you choose to be a UX or CX researcher? That's hard. So it's a great question, and one I think a lot of people face. So on the one hand, I think research is in my nature. I think asking questions, listening to people, investigating things, looking at things from multiple angles, finding problems, wanting to solve problems, distilling things down, understanding, the main idea here. I think that is just kind of in my blood. And so I think I would probably want to be a CX or UX researcher if I were just starting today, if I were 21 or whatever. However, if I were looking at the job market now, I am not sure what I would do, because I would probably see that there were very few entry-level opportunities for researchers. I would probably try to apply anyway. I'd probably do all the things a lot of people trying to transition to UX do. I imagine there's a very good chance I'd be unsuccessful. I imagine there's a very good chance I wouldn't be able to transition in, because there are just way more people applying for jobs and there are very few entry-level jobs. And so I hope that I would have a backup plan while trying to make UX research work for me, because I've been in that position before. I mean, my first job out of university was in the music business in New York City. And though I thought I was good at it and there were things I liked about it, there were also a lot of things that didn't match me. For example, I was surrounded by people who drank heavily, people who did drugs, or people who were recovering addicts, and I'm none of those three. I am the super straight-laced, not drinking, not drugging, never have person. And I knew I didn't really fit in with those people. Also, I was in a technical field. As a woman in a technical field, I was not always treated well. I wrote an article about it in 1995. It's not an easy article to find. I haven't tried to look for it for many years, but I wrote it for a magazine called Pro Sound News, and I called it A Woman's Places Behind the Board. And it was a lot of the stories of how I went on tour with a famous band as their road manager and their sound engineer, and I wasn't always respected. So I had to start coming up with, what else am I going to do? So I think it's in my nature to be a bit of a planner. So I would say if this were today, I think I would be wise to the job market and to the difficulties that are out there. And I think that I would probably still try to get into research, and I would probably have a plan B cooking at the same time. I think that's the best answer I can give. I don't think, because I'm also not a give up easily without trying at least a little bit person, because I think if I were a give up easily without trying at least a little bit person, I wouldn't have had a second book. I wouldn't have made a third book. I would have been just like, okay, nobody seems to want quality. Why am I bothering? You know, there wouldn't have been a second live stream. You know, we're coming up on, 5 years of this show, you know? So I think if I gave up easily, you wouldn't still see me. So I think that given my personality, I would probably try to get into research, but I would have some sort of safety net or other plan or other thing I was cooking up at the same time. That's my guess. Ana Lucia says, I wanted Monday ever since you did that webinar showing how you use it, but it's expensive. Maybe one day. Yeah, I totally agree. It's tough because I love Monday and I want to recommend Monday, but and you can get it for less expensive than what I'm paying because I'm at the pro tier, but then you don't get some of the advanced features I use. And sometimes when I show them off in our webinars and our shows and people go, oh, I want to do that too. And then they buy the lower level and they go, I can't do that thing Deb did. So I think it's worth looking into to see if you can make a lower level work for you, and it's financially reasonable. I don't even know what they're charging right now. Like basically I feel like Monday.com take my money. I don't even know what it costs anymore. Oh gosh, I can't even get into it because I'm logged in. Let me just open a private browser quickly. I'm not going to share my screen. I'm just going to open it and then we'll get back to questions. But I just want to be able to kind of complete the circle on what does Monday.com cost. Okay, so the standard says 12, I'm looking at euros, 12, oh, hold on, let's tell it so there is a free version, but it doesn't do Gantt charts, and so those of you who've seen me show off my Gantt charts, you wouldn't be able to do Gantt charts. It doesn't have guest access, so it would truly be a walled garden where you could not invite collaborators, and I do invite collaborators. The calendar view I don't use. The automations I use heavily, so yeah, you know, there's a lot you'd be missing out. So I guess, yeah, it says I'm paying maybe 50 something euros a month times 12 months. Yeah, I'm probably paying 700-ish a year. I don't love that. I'm not happy about that. I'd like to have that money in my pocket. But again, even if I'm billing 80 an hour, 100 an hour, if on a good day, if I'm billing more, all it has to do is save me that many hours a year, and it's technically worth it. So I try to look at it that way. I'm buying my own time back. Episode 243, Ana Lucia says. Okay, so I hope that answers that. And we're getting another anonymous question in. So I will copy and paste that. We're going to answer yesterday in gaming's question, and then we'll get to the new question we got about academia. Give me a moment. I'm a one-woman show, and there's a lot of copying and pasting going on in the behind the scenes. Okay, so next question was from yesterday in gaming, and it says, do you use the same program for personal and professional, or do you keep it separate? I'm trying to optimize my own calendar and workflows, and I'm looking for ideas. Yeah, definitely something we can cover more next week when we talk about time management. One thing that I do is I do keep Google Calendars, not sponsored. I keep Google Calendars, and I do keep multiple calendars. For some people, that's confusing and overwhelming. For me, I feel very, very strongly about separating personal and professional as much as possible. I do not give out my personal cell phone to business associates. I have a business number. I don't mix my personal calendar and my business calendar. I keep both of them updated. When you book time with me if you book like coaching with me or something like that, my system checks my personal calendar and checks my business calendar and then drops the appointment in the business calendar. So right now I'm keeping one personal calendar and two business calendars. One is general Delta CX stuff and one is Delta CX coaching. For those of you who have signed up for personal development or life coaching from me, you're in a separate calendar because I'm using dcx.to for that one, and I'm trying to separate that out a little bit from the CX and UX work. Yeah, thank you for knowing that episode number there. Very helpful. Let's see what else. I feel that some people are just investigative by nature. There's a lot of things to research, but I think UX scratches the looking for practical solutions itch similar to engineering. Yeah, I sometimes wonder if I went back in time, would I have done engineering instead? I think if I knew about human factors engineering, I would have done that. But at the same time, the university I went to had a UX course that I think was being taught by Jared Spool. And so I think that if I had gone into that in university and had Spool as a professor, I probably would have left it because I probably wouldn't have liked him even as a 19-year-old. So I think that would have worked against me. So I can't really complain about where I've ended up. In university, I studied chemistry, biology, and music mostly. I didn't know about human factors or UX or experience design or whatever it was being called back then. I only know I'm happy Jared Spool wasn't my professor, and I don't mind saying that loud. He's welcome to say he's happy I wasn't his professor. Okay, we got an interesting anonymous question that relates to an episode we did a long time ago, which I'm going to go try to dig up. So hold on, let me get that question up on the screen. Thank you for these great questions today. Don't forget, if you would like to ask a question, you can put it in the chat, though people will see your name, or you can send it to dcx.to/q. and it will come to my email and you can be anonymous. So this person says, what kinds of baggage do academics carry with them when transitioning to industry? How can they compensate or prepare for these pitfalls? So we did a show on this, but probably 2 years ago by now. So let's see if I can find it. Give me a moment. Oh, Delta CX. Episode 156. So if you go to YouTube and you write Delta CX 156. You should get this. So the name of that show was Transitioning from Academic to UX Research. We had Elena Talboy on as our guest, and she had just written a book about it. So I would say she is a great reference, a better reference than I am, and she has a book about this. Yep, I'll talk about Todoist in a moment. Thank you, Ana Lucia. So I would say, so what kind of problems do we see when academics come into research? From my experience and from what I hear from others, so this is more from what I hear from others than from what I experience, since I haven't bumped into that many academics in some of my research, but I hear this from people I coach. Sometimes the academic has trouble juggling more than one project at a time, when many companies expect us to juggle 2 or 3 projects at a time. Sometimes the academic is very set in their ways about how a research project might go. Sometimes an academic is used to getting a much longer time to do a project than we're given in the corporate world, and they have trouble adjusting to those shorter time frames. Sometimes an academic writes an overly formal research report when really the team needs a handful of slides that say, why should I care and what do I do next? And so I think that a lot of this can be solved by asking questions, which is really your job. Make sure you're working with your manager, your cross-functional teammates. How do we write reports here? Hey, cross-functional teammates, what can I deliver to you after this research project so that you know I've answered the questions you need answered? So I think that it's not so much compensate, because you have a lot of skills and knowledge and ability. It's more that you're just coming from a different world. It's like, hey, I'm an opera singer and I want to be the front person of a rock band. What do I need to do? Well, you're not going to need to compensate, but you are going to need to prepare. And the way that you practice and work is going to have to be different. So that would be some of my recommendations. Ana Lucia says, academics usually have trouble with the tech jargon. Sorry, an email popped up. They have to learn about the context and they have to adapt. And what I mean by jargon is agile and scrum and stuff like that. Yeah, if you haven't worked in a corporate environment before, welcome. You know, gestures broadly at everything going on. Welcome to the academic, to the non-academic environment. It's different. And also remember that in an academic environment, the goal of your research might be to learn something about human behavior for a particular study or a drug or a program. But in the corporate world, it's help us make money. And I think some academics might have trouble adapting to something like that, because they might think, hey, I'm doing this for the good of the people. Where's my job for the good of the people? And sometimes our jobs aren't necessarily focused on the good of the people. So another thing to get used to. I hope that helps. I am going to, I just got another question in anonymously. Thank you so much for all these great questions. Am I missing anything? Let me check my phone. Okay, so that's a personal message. I'll look at that later. Let's paste this. This is a bit of a long question. I'm going to have to make the font smaller when I put it up because it's going to be all squishy and weird. Hold on. Yes, this is a long one, and I encourage people telling long stories. This will be hard to read. I'm having trouble reading it, but I promise I'll read it out loud so we can see it. This question, oh, and we were talking about Todoist. I'll talk about that in a moment since I do use it, but honestly, mostly for packing lists and shopping lists. Raven says, I think that's a problem with design education. It teaches that you're advocating for users, aka the people, but that is orthogonal to a business's existence. Sometimes, yeah, sometimes these two go together, sometimes they don't. I try to tell businesses that we will win and make money and attract and keep customers by making customers happy. Imagine that. But sometimes they don't see it. They just see, how can we rush out crap fast? And then you're not really thinking about the users as much as you'd like. Okay, so, oh great, and more anonymous questions are coming in. So let's handle this one first, and then let's see what else is coming in. Let's pull it up on my phone so I can get a preview. Okay, we've got 2 more anonymous questions coming in. Super. And there are industries where CX and UX is used against users, like gambling. Yeah, these are all tough, Okay, our long question says, 2 years ago, I was laid off as a product manager, and the main engineer I worked with the whole time and had a great working dynamic with went unresponsive and then blew me off on LinkedIn when I asked him for a reference. I don't know why, but several of the engineers from that job are unresponsive to me. It makes providing references hard, frankly. Then the job I got a year ago lasted only 3 months, and I was let go abruptly with no reason and no feedback, so I see myself refusing to ever provide them as a reference. I feel unsupported by my network as a result, and I think this does hurt me as a job candidate. But what can I honestly do about it or share with a hiring manager to alleviate concerns? It's a great question. It's not one that we've had before, so thank you for asking that one. It's definitely a tough situation. There are certainly jobs that I am no longer at where I did not feel like I could give anybody as a reference. I personally believe that we shouldn't have references at all. I think references are just proven garbage because either you're in a position where you don't feel like you can find anybody who's willing to do it, or of course, you're going to find people who like you. You know, who gives a reference that says, Debbie is a jerk, she's awful to work with, and, you know, sweet holy Lord, please don't hire her. Of course, I'm going to send you people who like me. So what game are we playing here? So I wish that references didn't exist. I haven't been asked for one for a very long time, and I think the last time I was asked for one, which might have been a couple of years ago, I refused to give it to them. And they said, well, we like to have references. And I said, well, the people who've agreed to be my references are employed by Fortune 100 companies. They're extremely busy, and I do not want to give out their names and private contact information unless you are about to hire me and you absolutely must check references, or else you can't offer me the job. Outside of that, if you can offer me the job without talking to my references, then let's not do it, because you know I'm going to give you people who like me. My LinkedIn is full of 30 nice things that people have said. You know, this doesn't make sense. So they were like, oh, okay, I guess if we get close to hiring you, we'll think about that. So I've been putting on my resume references. It used to say references available upon request, and I stopped writing that because I don't want to give anybody references. My references are either from so long ago or are so busy that I do not want 50 jobs calling them. I don't even want one job calling them. So, yeah. Raven says, I once had to give a reference for my former boss. He had to find 3. And I'm like, what is this, college admissions? Yeah, it's very strange. Yeah. And then sometimes people will say to me, oh, will you be a reference for me? Now, if I've worked with them, yes, if I liked them. If I haven't worked with them, no. And I actually get that question rarely, but sometimes. LinkedIn user, sorry your name's not coming up, says, funny how I used to struggle before to find a good UX opportunity, and now I'm struggling to find good talent to hire for my design studio, Do Not Click Studio. I'm available. Ana Lucy is available. Half of my Discord is available. So I will go over to LinkedIn and see who wrote that. Hopefully they're just not here to plug their studio. But if you're serious, I have peeps for you. Hundreds of them. Tell me what you need. Oh, it's S. Reyes. Oh, hi, S. S, I'm available. And so is half of my community. So why don't you, we're connected on LinkedIn. Why don't you private message me and tell me what you're looking for, and I will help you. I just did this with someone else. I recommended someone from our community, and they love them and they were hired. So it doesn't have to be me, but let's get some of the people in my community hired. So please, you were connected on LinkedIn, send me a private message, tell me who you're looking for, and I will find you humans. And you can hire them or not. If you don't like them, that's fine. But I'm going to try, and you can't stop me. So person here, first of all, let it go. So I'm sorry that people are not there for you and you thought they'd be there for you and they're not. Some companies have a known or unknown policy that people aren't supposed to leave each other LinkedIn references or whatever. I don't know why these people aren't there for you, but walk away, whatever. And let's just focus on where you are now. And I'm at the point where I'm just refusing to give references, because if I give you a reference, it's only going to be someone who likes me. It makes no sense to ask me for a reference, because I'm not going to give you Jared Spool, who's going to tell you what a terrible person I am from every angle. I don't know about you, but that message gives me hostile work environment vibes. Yes, obviously the person who asked the question had an ugly, undeserved experience, and we'll just have to walk away from it. Let's take a look. We got two interesting questions coming in anonymously. Thanks again. If you want to send an anonymous question, dcx.to/Q, and just go to dcx.to and check out all of the resources we offer. Books, our free community, our free Patreon, all of the events we do weekly. Every Wednesday I'm answering your questions. Every Tuesday we have a topic we focus on. It's kind of a webinar series, and these are free. I can't tell you this enough. These are free. In a world of people who are charging you everything for everything, these are free. The only thing I charge for is my book is not free. And if you want coaching with me, that's probably not free. Everything else is free. Please come take advantage of it. Join the community. The Discord is free. dcx.to/Discord. All right, someone asked me, what are you currently looking to upskill in, technical or personal, or anything for that matter? I tell that story in my new book, Life After Tech. Again, you don't have to be leaving tech to read the book. I am trying to stay in tech, but I need to plan what else I'm going to do, because I don't think tech is going to carry me to retirement. So that means I'm upskilling. And by the way, tonight is class night. I get to take a class, and I live in Italy. The class runs on East Coast USA time, which means I am doing midnight to 2 in the morning. So yikes, but I'll make it. So I am back in school, and definitely #not sponsored, but let's put it up anyway. I am studying at Integrative Intelligence Institute, which is the school for my life coach. Who has been a fan of the show long enough to remember when my life coach came on in episode 70 something and told us all how to find our life purpose? That one's in the archives, everybody. Go to YouTube and write Delta CX Life Purpose, and Laurel will show up, and she has her own ICF accredited school. I am in her school. This was section 1. Now we're doing section 2. So I will be in school until early April, and then I hope to be an ICF accredited coach. So that is an area where I am upskilling right now. Am I upskilling anywhere else? I don't think so. At this age, there's lots of stuff I know, and I'm mostly sticking to those things. However, a few years ago, Larry Marine taught me task analysis, and I would say that really changed a lot of the work that I did. So that was something new that I learned, that I'm really happy that I learned, that I kind of fell into by working with Larry and then writing his book with him. So that was good. But yeah, right now I'm studying to be an integrative coach, which you might call personal development, personal improvement, life coaching. Life coaching gets a bit of a bad rap, so I don't always love to say it, but it's good stuff. At-will employment isn't a reciprocal or ethical law. It's tough. So that's what. Anybody else upskilling in anything right now? What are you all working on? Excuse me. Is there a post that I missed? No. Okay, so we do have we have more anonymous stuff. We have 2 questions. Lots of questions coming in. Thank you for all these great questions. Next one is about looking for jobs. Okay, and that question says, sorry, I'm pressing all the wrong buttons. I'm going to be great at 2 a.m. How do people stay sane when looking for jobs? How do we still enjoy life and hobbies if we lose our income? Obviously, the discussion of mental health is an ongoing discussion and extremely serious and important. How do we stay sane? How do we maintain our mental health even if we are losing our income? I am not a therapist. I'm learning life coaching, but I'm not a therapist. I think therapy can be a good avenue for here, but I think we all have to kind of tie ourselves to the things that mean the most in our lives. Why are we here? Maybe that's life purpose. Maybe go back and watch episode 70 something and go back and think about your life purpose. And that can be something that can be your motivator and your driving force. I spent a lot of last year, I wouldn't necessarily say depressed, but definitely feeling quite troubled and afraid and anxious about my future if I can't find a job. And ultimately, I felt that way for some months, and then I just felt like feeling that way is not helping me. It's dragging me down. It's killing my energy. I don't want to live in a fantasy world. I don't want to say everything's fine, everything's great. I don't want to be that person. I'm definitely a realist, but I don't want to be a self-saboteur, if that makes sense. Like, I don't want to be the person who says like, well, I didn't find a job for the last 5 months, so that's it. I'm done. I give up. That's it. I'll never get a job again. I don't want to be that person. Some people feel that way right now, and I definitely understand it. I felt a bit that way last year, but eventually I just hit a point where I said, you know what? I'm just going to trust that something will happen, that something will happen for me, even if it means I'm gluing together 4 part-time jobs. I'm going to make it, because I've got stuff I need to do and people I need to help and a reason for living and multiple reasons for living. And I feel sane. I that's the best word I can use, but I definitely have good days and bad days, and I definitely have optimistic days and painful days, and I have lost sleep. And so I think that we just have to recognize that this is part of the difficulty of hitting a bad point in your life. And I'm old enough to have hit many bad points in my life, from unemployment to being or feeling pretty broke to divorce. I mean, there's a lot of things that I've been through, and I've come out the other side of it each time. Here I am. So I guess a lot of last year I felt like, oh my God, what if I don't get to the other side of this? And then something just happened this year where a couple of good things started happening, and it made me feel like maybe this is going to be okay. So I think you just have to keep reaching for, maybe this is going to be okay, and what can I do to plant those seeds now? It's tough. I don't have all the answers. I'm not a psychologist. I can't necessarily help with mental health. I can only try. Ana Lucia says, I can't stop my brain from doing task analysis all the time and behavioral analysis and who knows what. Sometimes I just sit down in a food court and observe people. Occupational hazard. Yeah, once you get bitten by a UX bug, it's kind of with you forever. But I think we have to enjoy our life and hobbies. We've got to go on. There's a lot of good reasons to go on. And maybe your hobbies are one of the things that can turn you around. That's just a possibility. Maybe find more of those positive distractions, which might be life, hobbies. If you have a good relationship, that relationship, things like that. We got some good sized responses. Yesterday in Gaming says, sometimes what you really care about reveals itself to you when you lose other things like a job. That's been the case for me. It can feel painful, but it can actually be positive if you adjust your trajectory. That gives me hope, wanting to see what happens next. Cloudy Brew says, I'm submitting a grad school application in the nursing and mental health field precisely because I'm leaving tech. Job searching in tech is awful, and if we get a job, it's not secure, and I see people 10 years my senior with great backgrounds now unemployed and job hunting. It never ends. We're never secure. It makes life hard to live and plan. So I'm done having my livelihood subject to the whims of VC investors and boards. Yes, I cannot applaud enough for that. Thank you, Cloudy Brew. And I'm happy you're in our Discord community now, because this is the way many of us feel. And in the Discord community and in the Delta CX Hive, my kind of new slogan is, we support you wherever you are on your life and work path. If you want to stay in tech, I support you. You want to leave it? I support you. You're done with it? I support you. You've moved on already? I support you. You're trying to move on? I support you. You're staying in tech while trying to do something else? I support you. So, Cloudy Brew says it all. I certainly agree. I am not happy to see getting a job be this difficult, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to glue some things together to make a living. But obviously at 53, I didn't think I would ever have to say something like that. I thought that I would always be I would always find a job relatively easily, that someone would want my experience and skills and so on. But if they want my butt in an office, part of that is why I can't get a job right now. I don't live near your office. Ana Lucia says, therapist opinion. Keep doing your routines. Don't forget to do your own self-care. Keep your job search contained in a time window so that you have a life outside of that job search. You are still human. You need food, sun, warmth, and love. Even if you have to force yourself to do self-care, do a daily to-do list with tasks, adding a check to the tasks. That will help you feel more productive, and that will raise the way you perceive your self-worth. Yes, my husband and I have started doing morning video workouts. Do I look buff yet? Do I look, am I buff yet? Ouch, that hurts so much just doing that. We are doing some pretty intense morning workouts with a video workout series that I'm subscribing to. And it's worked for us in the past, and we just started again a week ago, and we don't love it. We're doing it. And, do the things. And when it gets a little warmer, I'll start going on walks again. I have a friend coming to visit in a week. She's staying for 2 months, and damn it, we're going to go on walks. So there you go. Love that, Cloudy. That's how I feel too. Yeah, we got to take our lives back. And that's really what life after tech is about. I know I'm plugging my book a lot, but hey, it's $18 or $10 if you get the digital version. I have nothing else to sell you, hypothetically. That's it. The book is the workbook. I'm not trying to sell you a $600 Maven course or anything else. So please buy my book. Who's old enough to remember the American TV commercials that ended with the guy going, please try my product? That's the way I feel. Please buy my book. I think you'll like it. I'm also feeling Hurley Boy house sitting service. Anybody remember Saturday Night Live in the early 90s? Please let me water your plants. I'm already taking in your mail. That's me right now. All right, we got a question in that I probably get once a year, so it looks like it's that time of the year. And this is the question. The question says, this is purely out of curiosity regarding knowledge assimilation and not intended to provoke anything, but why the dislike toward Jared Spool and or his teachings? Feel free to not answer. I'm mostly not afraid to answer this because it's my opinion, and you don't have to agree with me. You might not have experienced what I have. You might like him. You might like what he teaches. And my feeling in general is, if you can take anything good from what he teaches, if you found anything that is meaningful, actionable, and helpful, take it, use it. He's probably not 100% bad in someone else's eyes. But he's been on my shit list for some time, and I would have to say that while I do have many reasons for disliking him, which again is just a personal opinion, I'm under the impression he doesn't like me, so it's a mutual dislike. I feel that he is noticeably responsible for some of the problems we've had in UX and how we are not taken seriously. He was kind of the original democratized guy without using that word. He was out there teaching companies that the pinnacle of UX maturity was everybody at your company is a UX designer. Everybody can, he's the guy who said everybody's a designer. Everybody can do UX, and he's going to come train your company to that fantastic pinnacle of maturity, which oddly enough is one of the lowest maturity levels on something like a Nielsen-Norman scale. But he was out there heavily pushing the agile team can do UX design. Everybody can do all of this work, and I'll come and train you to do it. And he charged quite large numbers to do that training. I personally believed that sold us out. And then I also felt that he was playing both sides, because for his online community and stuff, he'd be like, you need to learn to fight better for your job and your worth. But then he was out there training for everyone can do your job. And so I get it. That could be a smart business move to make money from both sides and to pit these people against each other and try to make money from both sides, teach the companies to disempower UX and make money off that, and then teach UXers how to fight for that empowerment they're not getting. So, I didn't like that. I don't like his personality. I have met him. That was not an enjoyable experience. I find him to be a difficult, unlikable person. But again, that's a personal thing. There are some people who've met me and found me to be unlikable. So, that's just a personal thing. Linda says anyone can cook, but not everyone can create. And even when you see, I blocked Erica Hall everywhere I can, because she was selling research out by using the everyone can cook thing. And I said, well, everyone can cook, but not everyone cooks well. Not everyone cooks a healthy meal. Not everyone cooks a meal that won't make you sick. Not everyone cooks, so I don't believe that UX is like everyone can cook, but these are a lot of things that people say when they want to sell us out. In my opinion, you are welcome to disagree. You are welcome to love these people. You are welcome to give them all your money. You are welcome to create a shrine to them and bow to it. But I find that, Jared has some personality traits that don't match mine and put us at odds. And I think I'll also end that by saying I've caught him stealing from me multiple times, sometimes word for word. I found that to be dirty and unacceptable. I found that to be not good. Let's just call it not good. I used to joke, and it was only half a joke, that if Jared Spool says something supporting UX, he probably stole it from me or Larry Marine, because otherwise I found him usually just trying to tell people it was their fault. That I found a lot of his stuff to be not actionable. I wrote a lot of articles as answers to his articles and stuff. Like he would say, 5 easy steps to being a UX unicorn. Step 1, learn everything about everything. Not actionable. Makes you feel like there's something wrong with you. So you have to really have your critical thinking hat on with someone like Jared Spool, because people find him to be very charismatic, but I'm listening very closely to what he says. Oh yeah, who remembers, was it episode 37? I wrote an entire episode against him without naming him, now I am. Hey, S. Ray's here. Everyone's a designer. I guess we know who's been making our lives harder. Well, I've known it for a long time. I wrote an article a few years ago called, I found who's actually the gatekeeper, and it's Jared Spool. That's the hey, juniors, do you want to know why you're not getting a job? Because Jared Spool is telling everybody the agile team can do UX. My boyfriend can make a hard-boiled egg. Can he cook? Technically, he can cook an egg, but that doesn't mean he should do design. So was it episode 37? Nobody here has been a fan long enough to remember episode 37, but I remember. I'm going to look it up. That's from memory. I wonder if it was episode 37. Let's see. Delta CX tipping point pal Mickey. 31. So close. Episode 31. That was I'm really proud of that episode. If you ever want to go back and see younger, slimmer pandemic Debbie, pre-menopause Debbie, angry about something and not completely showing it. So what happened was I'd gone to a conference to be a keynote speaker, and Spool did a talk that he was touring at the time and doing. It was called something like Beyond the UX Tipping Point. And basically he produced his UX maturity scale, which showed that the pinnacle of UX maturity was everybody at your company does UX. They're fluent in UX, even the lawyers. And I was like, please, baby Jesus, no, this isn't good. And then Raven says, I remember the way Spool defended the idea of peak UX maturity is that folks will still know the difference between a professional UXer and everyone else. I don't remember that part. Well, how do you feel about it? So he did this talk, and he starts out with this premise, and his foundational premise was Disney had a really bad website in the mid-90s. Disney parks, like going to Disneyland or Disney World. Their website was terrible in the mid-90s. He had like a screenshot of it, and it just looked like a typical mid-90s website. Like it wasn't worse than any other website in the mid-90s, but he wanted the audience in 2019 to believe that this was bad, and he got them to laugh at it. And my thought was, ooh, he's really working the cult charisma thing. People are laughing at this instead of going, wait a minute, this is what websites looked like. But if you're not that old, then you don't remember what websites looked like in the mid-90s, and you go, oh, Disney had a bad website. I don't know why he was setting up the premise of Disney had a bad website. That was really strange. Spool would say, does anyone know who is and isn't an accountant in your company? And I'm like, do you remember what happened to Enron and Arthur Andersen? Yeah, of a certain age. Yeah, I don't know who is or isn't a good accountant at any company I've worked at. I don't know who is and isn't a good engineer. So anyway, Spool's talk went on, and he's trying to set up this foundational premise of Disney is bad at UX or something like that, Disney parks. And I think anyone who's ever been to a Disney park is likely to not agree with that. He even said that Disney were fools and losers because since people confuse Walt Disney World in Florida and Disneyland in California, sometimes a family will book a vacation at the wrong place and show up at the wrong place. And they're in different states in America. So if you show up in California with a reservation in Florida, you could be in trouble. But he said Disney were fools because they put aside hotel rooms at each location for people who booked the wrong place so that they could get a room. They're taking hotel rooms out of their inventory so that they could give them to these people who made the mistake when they never should have made the mistake in the first place. I find a lot of people can't tell the difference between Disneyland and Disney World, but I thought that's really smart of Disney. Like, I don't know why he's trying to set this up as these people are losers and bad at all of this stuff when so far I feel like he's presented a compelling argument for why Disney's pretty clever. Like, look, no matter how much we tell them Disneyland's in California and Disney World's in Florida, some people still book the wrong place. Yes, Raven, yes. So he's going on and on and on in this talk, and I'm like, but where's he going with this? I don't think he worked with Disney, so why is he setting us up to think that Disney are bad at things? And then he starts saying, oh yeah, Linda says Disney's pretty decent when it comes to brand. Yeah, and customer experience, because this was Disney parks. This was Disneyland, Disney World. And then he says, Disney didn't innovate anything until Magic Bands came out in, I think he said 2013 or 14. He had the wrong year, and I'm a super fan for Disney. I think many of you know that. He had the wrong year, and he said Disney didn't do anything innovative Period. Disney didn't do anything innovative until Magic Bands came out. Well, I lost it. And I was trying to figure out if I should just start yelling or not while this guy is giving his talk. And I decided not to start yelling. But here's what I did. Let me go grab something from the other side of my room. This is a Disney Magic Band. Version 1. I have version 2. I didn't grab it off my shelf. This is a Disney Magic Band version 1. Yes, it is customized. It says Debbie, and some of you have seen me wear the t-shirt with hipster Mickey on it. So Disney Magic Band version 1, now also used in a different form on celebrity cruises, I think, was basically the idea that you could wear this thing on your wrist and it acted as your ticket into the park. It was connected to your credit card so you could charge things if you wanted to buy stuff. It was kind of all the things. And then they started building in more things that this could do for a while. They were testing personalizing things because they know who's wearing this. And so I have a picture of like going through the haunted mansion, and at the end they have holograms of ghosts around you. You're looking at a mirror, and they were testing something where as you looked at that mirror and you saw the holograms of ghosts around you, there was a tombstone and it had your name on it because they knew your name and they could time it with when you were going. I thought that was great. Like, so there were a lot of interesting things you could do with the Magic Band, and they've just been increasing what you can do with it over time. They now have version 2. This is version 1. So that's a Magic Band, and it was innovative. It is innovative, but I happen to know the history of what came before it. And I remember sitting next to Alyssa, what's her name? I was sitting in the audience listening to this talk, and I said, if he doesn't say Pal Mickey, I might throw a shit fit. And of course, he didn't say Pal Mickey. So everybody watch episode 31 on Pal Mickey, because I did an episode on this show about Pal Mickey just based on my knowledge of it. And I've never worked for Disney. I'm just one of those super fans. And the most amazing thing happened to me was like, I don't know, 6 months or a year after I put that episode up, the guy who invented Pal Mickey contacted me. I mean, like, I could die happy now. And he said, I saw your episode and you got almost everything right. And he said, and now I'm going to tell you the rest. And I was like, oh God. Oh, this is amazing. Like, this guy is my idol, you know? And he's still out there inventing stuff. So who's Pal Mickey, right? So you can watch episode 31 for more, but I'm going to give you the short version. This is Pal Mickey. Pal Mickey is a stuffed animal, Mickey, with a bunch of electronics inside of him that include RF frequency stuff, a voice box, a sense of time, and they outfitted the 2 Disney parks at the time, because this was 1996, 97. They outfitted the parks with zillions of RF and other receivers. As you moved through the park, Pal Mickey understood where you were and what time it was. Pal Mickey would remind you to line up for the 3 o'clock parade. Pal Mickey would let you know that if you want to meet Snow White, you're not far from her. This is unbelievable in a time where we don't have smartphones. Because if you've ever been to Walt Disney World, and this was in Disney World, this wasn't in California. If you've ever been to Disney World, it's an overwhelming experience. The parks are huge. You have no idea where to find anything. Nowadays, they have dedicated places where you can meet a character and get a picture with them. In the old days, they didn't have dedicated places. These characters just showed up somewhere, and little kids would be sad all day that they didn't meet Mickey or whoever. If you waited online and you were bored, just squeeze Pal Mickey's hand and he will tell you a joke or ask you a trivia question. Before smartphones, when I was a kid, we used to wait an hour and a half online for a 4-minute ride at Disney. This little guy is one of the most innovative things I can think of, because it solves incredible problems that Disney truly understood. And it led to the Magic Band. These are the things that I think about. These are the things that drive me into CX and UX and stuff like that. The influence of Pal Mickey. I didn't have a Pal Mickey at the time. I bought him much later on eBay just to have one. Supposedly, if you put batteries in him, he still works. I've never tried that. I've never tried to put batteries in him or to turn him on. Okay, he doesn't smell so bad. He wasn't mine. I see he's got an on-off switch. Someday maybe I'll turn him on. I don't even know if he works. I just knew I had to have one. Because you don't know about this. Oh, he's got a little loop so you can hang him on your bag. You don't know about this. And if you go hear Jared Spool's tipping point speech, you learn that Disney's not innovative. Disney had a bad website. Disney's bad at this. I don't know why you would take the company that is one of the best at customer experiences and try to make them look bad so you can sell. Ultimately, his talk was a sales pitch for his training. The pinnacle of UX maturity is when everyone's a designer. And that's really what happened at Disney when they came out with the Magic Bands. No, the Magic Bands grew out of Pal Mickey, and John Padgett takes credit for the Magic Bands. So, yeah, you don't know anything about this. It's worth knowing about. So episode 31 was the UX tipping point of Pal Mickey, as a play on Jared Spool's talk at the time, Beyond the UX Tipping Point. But ultimately, I found that his talk was not meaningful, not actionable, and not helpful. And the clear message was, hire me to come train your company so we can reach the pinnacle of UX maturity, which is everyone's a designer. Everyone in the company is fluent in UX. And I thought that was dangerous and irresponsible. Sounds like Jared may have been fired by Disney. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. He does seem to be the kind of guy who holds on to things. Yeah, I mean, one thing that I've done because of my problems with him is when I've had people edit my books, they have to sign a non-disclosure agreement that not only says they won't tell anybody the content of my book because it's not out yet, but it also specifically mentions Jared Spool. I say, look, you can't tell anybody about the content of my book, but you especially can't tell Jared Spool because he loves to steal from me and he likes to try to beat me at something I've announced I'm coming out with. He's tried that a couple of times. Sounds like he was going for prison rules tactics. Attack the biggest person possible and try to gain some authority. Yeah, I think he thought if he could make Disney look bad and then make it look like, well, their greatness was because they're all designers. And it's like, well, that's not true. The Disney Imagineers are who does this. Paul Dietz is who did this. Paul Dietz. Look him up. D-I-E-T-Z. I've been following him, and one of his more recent inventions was a TV screen where people standing at different places looking at the screen see different things. And one of his use cases was, because the screen will know who you are and where you're standing, you would put it in an airport and it would give you your flight updates. That's kind of neat. So Paul is super interesting. And I imagine a lot of the old school Imagineers were. So, ask me anything about Walt Disney World. I know a lot for someone who didn't work there. And so this has turned into a long thing, and I should probably stop talking, especially as there's something in my calendar. No, pick giveaway winners and talk to my lawyer at 9:30. So, so I know people thought like, oh, why don't you like Jared Spool? And it's like, you know what? a lot of reasons, but he's got super fans. And whenever I say I don't like Jared Spool, someone goes and leaves my book a 1-star rating. And it's like, wow, that's really petty. That's really petty. If Jared Spool ever writes a book, oh, thanks, DXR16. If Jared Spool ever writes a book, please don't leave it a 1-star rating just because I don't like him. Like, read it. Give it a fair chance. See if you can learn something from it. Like, I wouldn't want my community to treat him the way his community treats me. I think we should be better than that. And it's been very, very strange to watch the behavior of some people. But I also recognize that because he plays the cult leader, it's very easy to get swept up in whatever he's doing. And it's just typical cult leader stuff. And so, you know, my thought is, look, I don't like him and I have a long list of reasons why not. But if you found something valuable from him, great, use it. If you like him, super. If you want to pay him for something, go ahead. You know, that my personal opinion doesn't have to be your opinion or experience. There are people in my community who love Spool and go to his webinars and they're on his mailing list and they love him. Fine, I support you. If you're getting something good out of him, take it. Take whatever you can and use it. Me, on the other hand, I haven't gotten anything good from him. I've only gotten bad. So he's someone that I block everywhere. I think he was my first block on Blue Sky. I think I went to Blue Sky, blocked him, then my ex-husband. So, you know, priorities. Yes. Oh, S, am I missing anything you're commenting? These things are coming in out of order on my phone. But yeah, so I'm not afraid to talk about these things because I think we should. I think, you know, we shouldn't be afraid to look at Debbie Levitt. Where does Debbie Levitt get it right? Where does Debbie Levitt get it wrong? Where could Debbie Levitt be a better ally to the community? Erica Hall, where does she get it right? Where does she get it wrong? Could she be a better ally to the community? I would say yes. Spool, Peter Merholtz, you know, I'm naming people I've blocked because to me, I found it easy to find things that I didn't like about them where I felt that they weren't truly allies to the community and were more focused on what they wanted to sell. Now, that being said, I wish I had their bank accounts, but I'm not willing to do what I see them doing to have that bank account. And that's just a decision I've made for myself personally. I would rather be poor and have followed my ethics and my morals and stood by all of you than to sell out and, you know, sell a design thinking course or be pro-democratization. You know, I think if any of you ever saw me flip like that, I think everything would be over. And so please do a show on your favorite innovations, Disney or otherwise. Yeah, I once did an entire PowerPoint deck on some Disney stuff because when I used to go to Disney and I just sold my timeshare there, so I'm pretty much assuming I'm never going back. But I every time I go, I study something there and I try to learn something there. And I once put it all together and I did a presentation wherever the heck I was working about all the things I had learned. I had researched how they dispatch their buses because Disney is evidently the third largest bus system in the country. Ana Lucia says, I don't always agree with the people who are considered to be thought leaders of this area, and I mean not just acclaimed, but actual good UXers. But I can always learn something from someone, so I follow them. I follow or unfollow or block when the content isn't helpful at all, and I simply can't agree with something they're saying. My most recent block was on someone being terribly sexist on LinkedIn. Yeah, I can feel it. You know, as the song goes, heroes let you down. Sometimes we really admired some of these people. I always thought Jared Spool was someone I was supposed to admire. I went into my first meeting with him thinking this is some great god of the universe. And once I spoke to him, I was like, oh, this is a bad person I'm not going to be friends with. And then when I learned more about him and saw some of his behaviors, I was like, oh, this is an enemy. So But luckily, so far I've won most of my battles against him. So petty Betty's afoot. Yeah. So he actually tried to infringe one of my registered trademarks, and I wrote him an interesting email, and he managed to decide to stop using that term. Oh, maybe one day when he's dead, I'll show everybody all of those emails between us, because that was a weird day. Not you. Oh, thank you. And no, I can be. I am definitely a not forgiving, hold a grudge person. And so some people might say that's petty. Some people might say that's fair. You're welcome to judge that however you want. But depending upon what people have done, I believe there's no forgiveness for some people. And I think if you are a reason why somebody out there doesn't have a job, I don't forgive you. I'm not okay with that. I can't excuse that away. I can't say, oh, but he's done these other great things. I once said to a super Jared Spool fan, what do you think is his best UX work? And she said, oh, I really liked this project he did in 1996. And that was a conversation about 2 years ago. And I was like, oh my God, I really hope may my best work never be more than half my life ago. Linda says, I'm a career switcher with 11 years of customer service experience. I just entered the field of UX and I have 2 years of experience. I'm having trouble landing my next job. Any advice is appreciated. Let's put that up. We'll go a little longer today because I got on the Jared Spool Pal Mickey thing. Oh, by the way, fun side story about Spool. There was a LinkedIn post before I blocked him where someone had put up a clip of an interview he had done, and he had stole something from me word for word. So I commented on that post and I said, Jared Spool stole this from me word for word. Here's the video of me saying this exact thing years before. Jared pressed like on my comment. Okay. Linda says, having trouble landing my next job, any advice would be much appreciated. Linda, I don't have good news for you. This is why I wrote Life After Tech. I think that while we try to get our next tech job, we've got to consider what else might be out there for us. I think that there are too many factors working against tech right now. The job market, a lot of things that go with the job market, reduced jobs, companies wanting to save money and build profits, and AI, they want to replace us with AI. I think there's a lot of things wrong with tech, and I think it's not a long-term future. So I would say keep trying and keep applying and do what you can to clean up the resume and the portfolio. But if you can't get a job, it's not your fault. It's probably not you. Then there are many jobs that are getting hundreds or sometimes thousands of applications before they close them. It's just a numbers game. I'm lucky that when I came up through UX, especially in the 2000s and the 2010s, it was still a lesser known field where there were more jobs than people. And that meant they were desperate to hire any of us, and we could get these jobs in a day and they paid well. But then when that balance changed and there were more people than jobs, now they're much pickier. Now they don't want us. Now they don't want to pay so much. Everything's shifting and it's out of our control. So I think keep trying, but also look at other stuff, because I think it's not a long-term career for any of us. I'm not sure if I'll still be working in this in 5 years or so. And it's part of why I'm changing the whole vibe of our community. I want our community to be more about us as people than about we have to be UXers. I want the dcx hive to go on even if many of us aren't working in UX. So that's what I want to rebuild. Ana Lucia says, I was fine with this person I recently blocked until I saw him having a rant that was similar to, but family. Sorry, but no, privileged prick who doesn't even recognize his own privilege. Yeah. Raven says, I've had to unfollow the usual suspects in the design community. I felt like I was being gaslit because none spoke to my experience. Yes, and I even write about that in Life After Tech, that there's a lot of gaslighting out there, a lot of you caused your own problems, or you didn't do the right work, you didn't do the work that showed value, now you've done it to yourself. And I just disagree with that completely, because it implies that we had all the resources we needed, we had time, we had autonomy, we had empowerment, but we just happened to choose to do the completely wrong work and shoot ourselves in the foot. No, it's not how this works. It's not how it went. So I don't like the gaslighting. I don't like any of those webinars or coaches or people who try to make it sound like you did this to yourself, you're a dinosaur, you're not using enough AI, you didn't do enough design thinking. I can't agree with it. I think it's damaging. Anyway, I'm running late. Thanks to everybody for staying late. Good UX is invisible, which doesn't help. Yeah, I think it is visible. I find that when I talk to people who don't understand UX, they'll say things to me like, this was really user-friendly. And I think that good UX is not as invisible as we think. I think that's a thing that we say to each other over and over again. But where is it, everybody? Where'd my props go? Help. All my props are not in the right places today. But if we put on our critical thinking hats, who remembers my critical thinking hat? If we put on our critical thinking hats, is good UX really invisible? I think even grandma understands what's user-friendly and what's not user-friendly. I think a lot of people do have a sense of that. They might not know why. They might not know what makes something user-friendly or not. They just feel like this just works. I just get it. It just works. I didn't have to read a manual. I think good UX is not as invisible as we think, and I think when we say these things, we accidentally or on purpose continue this whole UX is a mysterious, amorphous blob that we just can't understand. No, good UX is not invisible, and I think that these types of things that we say have been hurting us, because good UX is extremely visible. It's palpable. We see it in customer support calls. We see it in retention numbers and churn and all that. And so let's start telling people that good UX is visible. Let's tell people good UX is palpable, it's knowable, it's measurable. What if we told people that? What if? All right, so I'm going to play some background music to remind me to end the show. Last time I played the background music and forgot to end the show. So let's remember to end the show. I have to click this thing to end the show. There we go. So thanks again for coming, everybody. Note that I'm going to be taking next Wednesday off to welcome my guest. We will do time management on Tuesday, which will be a little bit of a repeat of some of the things we talked about today. But please join, especially follow on Twitch. That's got the lowest latency and it's a little bit more of a live conversation. But tune in however you can. And I will try to see everybody for maybe a Friday co-working or Saturday karaoke. But if not, see you next Tuesday. Thanks again, everybody. Bye.